Hello, and it is time yet again for Archive Memories, where we talk about that game that everybody just loves so much. You know the one.
The same old thing game.
Yep, the same old thing game. And that's right, guys. It's Pokemon, the trading card game. So we're gonna talk about our favorite Flip Teeny strats. We're gonna see if we can pull Hollow Gigantamax Pikachu, um,
Hell yeah, Pikachu's.
Squirtle. You guys have heard of that one, I
I
know.
think you made that up. I don't think that's a real Pokemon.
Yeah, it's you're right. But anyway, I think for the first time in a long time, I have a little preliminary Netrunner topic to bring up.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know it's been a long time.
I swear, kick it. If you bring or Aaron or whatever your name is, if you bring up Nisei again,
No, I will not be bringing up Nisei, but I am going to bring up the other Nisei.
oh
Being that Netrunner reboot recently came out with a new set of kind of their own original cards, which I'm going to be honest with you, I don't necessarily love too much, right? Because in my mind, if you're going to do Netrunner reboot, you should just stick to cards that exist, and if you do want to limit the sets, right, and even only maybe do a card pool of certain cards, that you've adjusted the stats for, and kind of go off that. I feel like, that'd be fine, but having, your own original cards still almost seems like, a little out of the spirit of what I feel anyway a reboot project should be about.
yeah, I think I generally agree. But my primary issue with these seems to more hinge around that I think from what I've seen from most of these projects that they're just not very good.
Yeah. And I don't want to talk badly too much on Netrunner reboot, especially since we've gotten some shouts out there from talking about them, and I will shout them out again and say that this latest pack that they look, there does look to be some pretty fun and wacky stuff that honestly does have me kind of interested.
That's fair. I haven't looked at the Netrunner reboot as much as I looked at Nisei or whatever the hell they're calling themselves these days. And that's probably colored my opinions.
Yeah, I will say that some of the OG, or not OG, but my own original or OC. That's what I'm thinking of. Some of the OC reboot cards. Um, I think I mostly just like and am interested by because they do some like pretty like wacky stuff, and I almost feel like Nisei kind of doesn't try to get wacky enough.
True, and they spend a lot of time, it feels like, complicating things that were simple.
Yeah, I feel like people are Nisei maybe in specific. Um, it almost seems like they're a little like too unwilling to try to push into new design space, or introduce new concepts. When that's not really a precedent that Netrunner kind of ever said. I mean, even after Netrunner had released, like they were still in packs and data packs introducing like new gameplay like concepts and mechanics. Just like current events, just off the top of my head.
Sure.
Um, and so, and I don't know. Honestly, I haven't kept a huge pulse on Nisei just because early on it didn't really interest me very much, and I didn't think it looked very good. So, there could be some of the kind of wackiest, most interesting Nisei stuff ever out there right now. But I'll be honest, I haven't been looking at it. But I'll tell you, some of those reboot cards, those crazy dual agendas, I will say, got my interest peaked a little bit.
I haven't decided whether or not I like the idea of the dual agenda or not, so I'm reserving judgment. I looked at the same ones in the recent pack, and there definitely are some interesting things about it. I don't know though.
I think it's a
Mm,
cool design space, right? Because it's an in between, right? Because obviously agendas can only be put in the decks of this faction, right? Or they're neutral, right? It's one or the other. So I do
Right.
think it's interesting to introduce agendas that, while not neutral, you're able to use in two different factions rather than just being the one. I do think that's
Sure.
interesting design space.
Yeah, that's fair. And especially when the effects can benefit the different factions in different ways. If you're careful with it, and in some of them, I like that 5-3 Jinteki HB agenda in their initial pack. I think have some interesting space and are doing that well.
Yeah. So, anyway, anybody out there that's interested in, try anyone's out there interested in trying Netrunner in a format that is, still getting updated and tweaked, and still getting patches, go check out Reboot instead of Nisei.
Basically not Nisei.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess now we can talk about cards that actually existed.
Whoa, what a concept. What do we have first?
I said, "Yep, what a concept. I could use some mandatory upgrades myself."
Every time I think about upgrading myself, I think about replacing my eyes with cyber eyes.
Dude, same. And that's why we have mandatory upgrades here. Because you don't even have a choice. These are mandatory upgrades, and this is a uh, HB agenda with the initiative subtype. It has a 6 advancement cost to score.
Boy, howdy.
6. That's the big one, biggest one yet. And it is worth 2 points. And it reads: you have 1 additional click to spend each turn. So, Isaac,
Hmm.
why did an agenda with such an on paper, like pretty hugely powerful effect, uh, basically get relegated to meme decks and meme decks only?
Okay, I think the problem can be summarized with comparing it to cards like Project Vitruvius and Project Brain Trust. These are 3/2 agendas that you benefit from overscoring. In some of these cases, they're pretty substantial benefits. Uh, they never got overscored, basically ever. Um, because you'd rather just get the points away from the runner where they can't get them and just get closer to winning the game. The best part about agendas for the corporation? It's the fact that if you score them, you win the game.
Yeah, that is. I've been told that that's how it works.
Right. So we have like a Vitruvius with one fast advance tool, a biotic labor, a Sansan, or something. You can score in 1 turn. Mandatory upgrades is by itself a 3-turn score. Three
Yes.
turns. Three. Three. That's so not only is that so much opportunity for it to be stolen by the runner, it's so much opportunity that you've lost where you could have been doing other things, but you just spent a third of the game scoring this one agenda.
Yeah. It's a huge. It's just too insurmountable a commitment in most circumstances to be able to actually get this thing on the table and score it. Like it doesn't seem a lot, right? Because a lot of the agendas are 5 to score, right? But that
Yeah.
difference between 5 and 6 is like the fucking Grand Canyon.
Yep.
Because an agenda being out on the table or needing to be out on the table for a whole extra turn, um, it can't be overstated like how significant that is.
Oh, it's
Um,
huge.
because uh, the difference a turn makes of a runner being able to get set up to be able to get into your server um, is huge. Um,
Yep.
like the runner having that extra turn to be able to get econ, get breakers, get this, get that, um, is just like there are going to be so many instances where even if you have a good server setup, once the runner knows that you're doing some nasty nefarious things in that server that they need to go put an end to, most runner decks are gonna find a way in that 3 turn window to go nab this.
Yeah. And
Um,
I want to compare it to another bad card here real quick.
okay.
Spoiler for the future.
Oh no.
The often forgotten Director Haas. Director Haas is an asset that is 3 to res, 5 to trash, and just gives you 1 extra click for each of your turns. And if the runner comes in and trashes it, then it's worth 2 points for them. That card is better at this job than mandatory upgrades is. Because you res it, you now have the extra clicks. And the runner, in order to get those 2 points, has to get into your server that's protecting Director Haas and trash it for 5, which is expensive.
You
You
know,
want and who do you know who ran Director Haas?
so nobody. I mean, I guess I think I know at least. I at least tried to make it work once probably. Um, but I will say that I don't actually agree with you. Like, I don't think that Director Haas is actually a better card than mandatory upgrades.
Interesting. Why?
Um, just by virtue of the fact that mandatory upgrades agendas need to be in your deck anyway. Director Haas is taking up extra deck space that agenda, so it's not part of the agenda count.
Okay, all right. Valid complaint. I think you're correct there. I think maybe I misspoke. What I intended to say is the job of getting you another click consistently.
Okay,
Director Haas is better at that
fair. Okay.
because it's not a 3 turn investment for Director Haas. For Director Haas, 1 click. You install Director Haas, you can now res her, and you now have the extra click. You've invested 1 click to get many clicks. Mandatory upgrades, by the time you score it, how many turns is it actually giving you?
right. Well, one of the big things that also can't be overlooked is there's another card that we've talked about in the past that gets you an extra click. Uh, it's called Biotic Labor.
Uh huh.
And you can just run those, and then you don't need to do any wacky weird bullshit. You just draw it, and if you have money and the agenda you need to score, then you just do it.
As it turns out, that does make some sense given that you can just play it from your hand when you need the extra click.
Right? Because here's the thing: is when it's all said and done, what is the benefit, Isaac, of having 4 clicks as a core?
The main benefit is that you can install a 3-2 and score it on the same turn, or a 3-1, I suppose. But you can fast advance. That's the main benefit.
Bingo, exactly. And so, being that this card, I guess here's the most kind of, I guess, concise way that I can explain why mandatory upgrades is not very good. Is it is a fast advance enabling card that works really, really slowly.
Yeah, yeah. It requires you to have a serious scoring server set up in order to get it scored, or maybe you're running some weird Hospiroid trap deck and you're a bluffing god. Sure,
Yeah.
sure, that could happen.
But even then, right, if that's the type of deck that you're building, like having the 4 clicks is gonna be nice, right? But
Yeah,
you don't want to build a deck around this agenda for it to be nice.
yeah.
Like, this is a card that you want to score and you want to get the effect of so that you can win the game.
Yep, I
Eh,
do hear that winning the game is the point.
yeah, and there's way more cards that do that job way better.
Yeah, yeah.
you know and obviously, people listening may be like, well, Aaron, though, you said in when you were talking about Director Haas that other cards, they're extra card space because they're not an agenda, which agendas have to be put in your deck. Problem is that Biotic Labor is you're going to want to put that in your deck, almost any time you're building a purple deck for the most part,
Yep,
because it's almost always going to be good.
totally. But I forgot where I was going with this. You want your agendas to not be anchors in your hand as well.
Yeah.
You don't want them to just sit in your hand and be like, well, I still can't score this. I still can't score this. I still can't score this. Oh no, they're running my hand again.
Yeah. One of the big things about choosing your agenda suite is because here's the thing: is that you know, obviously you need them to win the game, right? But I think we've already touched on this in the past. But like, agendas kind of suck.
They
Like,
do.
you don't usually want to see them. Like, they're your cross to bear as a corporation. Like, this is the way for the most part that you got to win the game. Agendas suck so much that a half of corp archetypes revolve around winning the game without having to score them.
True.
And so the thing about when you pick your agenda suite is you want to mitigate that suckiness as much as possible. And so you want to be running agendas that are either easy to score or give you or a real boon, or have built-in defenses, things like that, right? It's like you want these cards to just be
Yeah.
less of a weight on your shoulders, while
There's a
mandatory upgrades is not that.
Right. There's a reason why Global Food Initiative wound up in basically every deck.
Yeah. Because spoilers, just the runner getting less points carte blanche is really good.
Yeah.
uh
Same problem with NAPD. Oh, you just have to pay 4 in order to get this.
yeah,
Guess that sure gamble of yours is just garbage now.
yep, don't even get me fucking started on Future Perfect. Like, all these agendas, right? It's they're good because they mitigate their existence.
Right. The two best agendas are the ones that let you score other agendas or stop the runner from getting points somehow.
Right. And this is a misfire in both instances, in that it doesn't do anything. Like, it doesn't have any sort of self protection. It's not easy to score, and while the effect is powerful, it's not conducive to the type of deck that would be able to score it.
Right. So how would you change it?
So here's the thing: is I was kind of mulling over this. Like, would it be too powerful if it was a 5/2
That's kind of the direction I was thinking, and I think
or
it
a five
probably
one,
wouldn't.
maybe? I guess that the difference between a 2 and a 1 really doesn't matter, I guess, in a fast advanced deck anyway.
Right. I kind of think it probably wouldn't be. I think it would be good, but probably not too good.
Yeah, because here's the thing,
Maybe.
right? Is, I mean, more majority of the time, even in a uh, fast advanced deck, even a 5/2, you're probably not really going to be able to score. But at least it wouldn't just be crazy, right?
Yeah.
Two turns on the table is much less of an ask than
Yeah.
um
3 turns on the table means 2 runner turns on the table, and that's
yeah,
twice as many as 1.
exactly. And so I think if it was a 5/2, it would at least it'd be worth looking at, right?
Yeah.
I think is probably as about as sweet as a spot as you could get a card like this. Because the thing is, having an additional click to spend each turn. I feel like it's really riding the razor's edge where it could be way too powerful.
Agreed. Agreed. And I don't know, maybe for that reason I'm content with it where it is, because if it was better, I'd see it more and I'd be annoyed with it. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know.
Giving the corp just clicks is a slippery slope.
Yeah, but I'd be interested to see what the landscape would look like where this is a 5/2.
Sure.
Anyway, as far as meta goes, like I said, nothing. Nobody ran this except weird janky meme decks. I know that I only ever tried to fit this in weird janky meme decks, and I don't think anybody ever saw this in a tournament anywhere. I mean, that's
Nope.
probably a lie. I mean, I'm sure people bring janky meme decks to tournaments, right? But
Yep. Yep.
anyway, how do we feel about the flavor?
I don't hate the flavor. It's got like with the art, it's got some of that early Netrunner art syndrome, with like Armitage code busting. So
Yeah,
where it's not totally my favorite, but it's not awful. And there is something wonderfully cyberpunk about, sorry, but your corpo overlords have decided that your eyes are damaging our bottom line. Replace them with new ones.
yeah, I do love the concept of corporate mandated cybernetic prosthesis.
Yeah, agreed.
That is very awesome. That you are not you are not corping fast enough with your current eyes.
Yes, we need better eyes in your head. So it says here in your contract that
That we can do that, so we're going to do that. You will not receive any sick pay.
yep,
But yeah, no, I think it's good, and I think the art is fine. I would say the art's good, even. You know,
yeah, yeah. I don't dislike the art. The art's fine.
how about the flavor text?
Well, let's go ahead and give it a read. Sometimes employee reviews took a little bit longer than anticipated.
So here's from a flavor perspective where it kind of misses me. I don't feel like that is very good flavor for this card.
I feel like it could have done better. It's not bad per se, but just a little vanilla.
Well, it's just like, I don't know, oh, employee reviews took a little bit longer. Like,
Right, but
what?
the employee reviews is your eyes are being replaced.
I guess, but it's, I don't know. It seems like it's reaching way too out there for a, like, kind of, cheeky sort of, you know.
Maybe it does sound like corpo speak to me, but eh.
Yeah, eh. Anyway, what do we rate mandatory upgrades?
Mandatory upgrades is a 2
Boy,
for me.
howdy is it.
It's not offensively bad. They're like trying to do something kind of interesting, but it's just a misfire.
It's just normal bad.
Normal bad. Like a McDonald's cheeseburger.
Yeah. Except, I bet a McDonald's cheeseburger does actually still taste better than mandatory upgrades.
How many mandatory upgrades have you eaten?
Let's not talk about that.
Fair enough.
Instead, let's talk about.
Janus 1.0. Janus 1.0 is a Haas Bioroid ice. It has the subtypes of Sentry, Bioroid, and AP. It is 15 credits to res. It has 8 strength, and its subroutines read, or it also has the text: the runner may spend click to break any subroutines on Janus 1.0, like Bioroids B. Its subroutines are do 1 brain damage, do 1 brain damage, do 1 brain damage, do 1 brain damage. Alright. Aaron, was there a reason that this card suffered other than the 15 res cost, in your opinion? Because that's the elephant in the room, and the elephant is 15.
Yeah, so here's, I think, the main problem with Janus. And it is, yes, that it costs 15 to res. I don't want to make implications that that's not the big problem, because 15 to res is fucking crazy.
It's bonkers. That's
It's
insane.
it's insane. 15 to res is so many credits.
I've had games where I didn't earn 15
I
credits
was gonna
in the
say,
entirety of the game.
I was gonna say that exact same thing. That I think I've played games that didn't last long enough for me to get 15 credits. Absolutely crazy. But the problem, like, if you dig a little further, though, right, is because you look at this at face value. I certainly did at face value, and I was like, "Whoa, that's fucking crazy, dude!
That's sick, bro. I could do 4 brain damage.
So many brain damages. What?" But here's what actually happens. Here's what
Uh-huh.
actually happens is when push comes to shove and the chips are down, when the rubber meets the road, whatever thing you want to say, what the runner's going to do is they're going to run on first click, spend 3 clicks to break the 3 of the brain damage subroutines, and they're going to take
Mhm.
1 brain damage and spend $0.
So you're saying that there might be negative implications as the corporation if you spend 15 credits to do 1 brain damage to the runner.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that this is a this is a mirage. And I think there's a lot of ice and a lot of cards really that are like this, right? That are a mirage. They look like they're awesome. They look like they're powerful. They look like you're really going to get some devastating effects out of them. But often reality is often disappointing.
Right.
To quote our favorite superhero soy slop. Uh, it it's just the problem with Janus is that it's not going to protect you when you absolutely need it to.
Right.
And that's a problem that many bioroids have. But many bioroids are also not 15 credits to res.
Right. Yeah. So if you res a Victor 2 in front of somebody, they're going to click twice. This Victor 2 costs 5 credits.
Yeah, that's 10 less.
That's 10 less for a difference of 1 brain damage and 1 click. That doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I mean, heck, you could even point to a not as stark example of Heimdall 2. I think Heimdall 2 costs 11, which is still a
Yep.
lot, but it's
It's
more
a
than
lot.
this. And that'll still drain the runner of 3 clicks and give him a brain damage. Or no, not even 3 clicks because they
Right,
can
right.
only spend 2. So yeah, they would spend 2 and take 2 brain damage if they just decide to just click through Jaime too.
Will Heimdall 2 do that? I thought his subroutines were brain damage, end the run, and end the run.
I think the end the runs are in the first order. I think it's the same with Heimdall 1 as well. I think the order of the subroutines is bad. I could be wrong.
No, I'm looking at it. Do one brain damage, and end the run, end the run.
Well, no, like, sorry. You can take and break subroutines in any
Sure,
order
sure,
as
sure.
the run.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true.
Anyway, thinking too hard. Thinking too hard about these things. But
Uh,
point is, Heimdall 2 accomplishes the same thing, right? The same end result, except better because
yeah, it ends the run.
it has the possibility of ending the run, and also if they choose to click through it, they're at least going to take 2 brain damage.
True. No, no. If they click through it, they take one. It's three
It-
subroutines.
yeah, but Heimdall, he's a 2.0, right? So they can only spend 2 to break 2.
Right, right, right. But they break the two end the run subroutine with the brain damage and end the run and the end the run subroutine, and so they just take one.
But they would have to have 4 clicks to do that.
No, it's 2 clicks for two subroutines.
Yeah, so they would break the and the run and the brain damage, and then they would only have 1 click left, so they couldn't do it again.
Right. So they would take one brain damage, or they would end the run.
Does it have 3 separate? I thought it had 2 brains
It's
and
three
1 and 2.
subroutines. Three
Oh, is it
subroutines.
only 3? I thought.
One is doubled up.
Oh, okay. I I was like I thought it had 2 and 2. I could just be looking at it, but I'm just gonna choose to have you read it to me and try to parse my understanding from that.
That sounds like the best way.
Anyway, point is, Heimdall 2 is a better card than this and costs less.
Yep. That's true. That's accurate. Fact check. True.
Yep. Snopes, true. Um,
It is a shame because I wanted to like Janus. It's just vicious.
yeah, and
But it's
I've
vicious to me more than the runner.
yeah, and I do want to clarify that, right? It does work fine as a taxing ice, like kind of throughout the game. And if you are
Yeah,
like gonna
yes.
do a red coat style, like Janus over R&D, if you have a deck that can support the economy to do it, like nobody's ever gonna complain about a Janus over R&D.
There's a problem. Parasite. Parasite exists.
So also true. Um, But even in the context of Parasite, it is going to take a lot to kill the Janus. However, though, if they do, they're almost certainly going to be coming out ahead, in that trade than the core.
Right.
Because even if you figure that the core, doesn't uh, purge virus counters, right? It's going to be probably several turns and several tokens to get rid of it.
Sure. Like, all right, imagine you're the runner and you draw a card that says you may take one brain damage to make the corpse spend 3 turns recovering economically.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
I'd take that deal.
Yeah, definitely not bad. But I mean, you can't really blame Janus for that one too much, though, because kind of Parasite and the Parasucker interactions, and later on Shudder, the Cipher Parasite interactions, um, like those are indictments on Ice as a whole, and Janus, can't be, you can't blame Janus for that. I mean,
That's fair.
that's an issue that you
I'm
can
not. I'm
apply
not.
to any big ice.
Sure, I'm not blaming Janus, but I am saying that Janus suffers from that problem more than your average 4 or 5 cost ice.
Sure, that is true. Um, but being bummed out by Parasite, by the Parasucker interaction, every piece of big ice is bummed out by that.
Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. So this card didn't affect the meta.
No, did Redcoats even run this? No, right? I don't think
No,
so.
no. I feel like an occasional Heimdall 2 was the biggest thing you saw, and it was mostly like Jaime ones and toll booths.
Yeah. Did any weird what the hell is that thing called? The The Wayland card that lets
The
you
twins,
do the res ice, not the twins.
not the twins.
What are you, Steve? Get out of
Oversight
here.
AI. Listen,
Oversight AI. Yep, that's
I
the
had
one.
I had to play a lot of Netrunner with Steve, so the twins was a thing that happened to me sometimes.
Okay. No. But did any of the weird Oversight AI Blue Sun decks? Did they try to run
I
Janus?
mean, I think I saw it on occasion, but it's 3 influence, man. That's expensive.
Oh yeah, that's true. It is 3 influence. Too much. Too much for our boy here.
Yeah.
How would we fix it though? Let's fix him. Let's fix our boy here. We
Uh,
can fix him.
okay. Step one, drop his strength by a couple points, his cost by like 5. Um,
You
I don't
think if he was
know.
like 6 strength, 10 to res, and you just kept everything else the same, it'd be
I think there'd be an argument for it. 15 is too much, man. Nobody can pay 15 for ice.
yeah. 15's wild.
If you are a filthy rich red codes deck, you might pay 10 for ice, but you really want to pay 8.
Yeah. Honestly, even if he was just like 5 strength, 8 to res, that might be too cheap though, because the
Okay, all
four
right,
subroutines is a lot.
all right. I got it. I got it. Let me know what you think of this stupid idea.
Sure.
Um, Janus is like, let's say 9, 10 credits to res and is like 6, 5, 6 strength, something like that. Has 2 brain damage subroutines and says when the runner encounters Janus, gains do 1 brain damage for each click the runner has remaining.
Okay. So yeah, that's wacky enough. Oh, did they ever do that? This made me think of an interesting design space that I don't think ever got explored. Um, what if it was like it started with say just uh like 3 brain damage subroutines, um, but it read that every time the runner spent a click to break a subroutine, you added a power counter to it, and for every power counter it gained to do 1 brain damage subroutine.
Interesting. That would be an interesting kind of like building threat type thing. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's actually it came to my mind, and then I was like, I was kind of surprised. Like they didn't ever do that, did they? I think that'd be kind of a cool thing where the more clicks you spent on a bio ride, like the stronger it got.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's a learning robot.
Yeah, it's an AI. I don't know, but ultimately, yeah, I think the answer is probably just tweak the numbers a little bit.
Yeah,
There's probably a sweet spot to be found in there between its strength and its cost.
pretty much.
How do we feel about the flavor of Janus?
Um, okay, well, why don't you go ahead and read the flavor text for us?
The flavor text reads, "Face your fear."
Um, I don't know why they picked Janus for this. Because Janus was like the Roman god of change and time and so forth. Why is he a sociopath who wants to eat your brain?
Yeah, I can't say that I am particularly familiar with him as far as being a mythological figure. But I will say that the art fucking rips.
The art does rip. Like yeah,
Literally rips.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I like it as a depiction of like a cyber Janus, since Janus was classically depicted with like 2 out
yeah.
faces like that. And that's a great depiction. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So kind of regardless of sort of the choosing of Janus and that sort of function to flavor or what have you, I almost think that it gets a pass just from having
It does
some of the
have,
coolest art in the game.
yeah, it's got some rule of cool going for it.
And I do give it props too in that I went with green instead of classic cyber blue, purple.
Yeah, yeah, that's a fair point.
Um, but I don't know. I think the flavor is fine enough. Like I said, I'm ignorant to the mythology aspect of it. So being a cool bio red ripping out of a dude's head is enough for me.
Fair enough. So
All
what
right,
are we rating it?
what do we rate Janus here?
I went first last time. This is your turn.
Yeah. So I am gonna give Janus a 2 as well.
Okay.
Because
I'm
it's
gonna give
another
him
one. where I think
Go
he's
ahead.
bad, but he's not like crazy bad.
I'm gonna give him a 3 because it's a much cooler card than mandatory upgrades. I
That is
think
true.
it's bad for kind of similar reasons. That mandatory upgrades, it's too costly to score. Janus is too costly to res, but this is cooler because it's eating your brain.
Yeah. And what I will say about this compared to Mando upgrades is that I did see people play this, and I did myself play it. Um, and it at least, like when you got a Janus resed on the table, like there was definitely a moment where it's like, oh man,
Some big dick energy.
yeah. So definitely got to give it for that. Actually, I might bump it up to a 3 too,
There we go.
and I
One of
am.
us.
I'm gonna bump it up to a 3.
All right, what's next?
Next we have Ash 2x3ZB9CY. It is a upgrade Bioroid, still out of house Bioroid. And it is 2 to res, 3 to trash. And it reads whenever there is a successful run on this server, trace 4. If successful, the runner cannot access any cards other than Ash 2x3ZB9CY for the remainder of this run. And it is 2 influence. So, Isaac,
Mm-hmm.
was there any other card that had such a whiplash inducing rise to prominence from nothing than our boy Ash 2x3ZB9CY?
I'm trying to think. I'm not coming up with much off the top of my head.
Because this is a card that I never saw anybody use ever. And to me, I don't know kind of what you heard in your kind of local meta and murmurings or whatever. But I
Mhm.
think a card that was pretty much universally written off as just being whatever at best. Um, and then out of nowhere, this was the fucking card for uh, like just like HB decks, any deck that just wanted to protect an agenda, pretty much.
Right. I think what happened was Ash is Ash is a trace, obviously. Trace is a bidding war. It's got a pretty solid, like, base trace amount at 4. That's pretty good, especially for this early on in things when you had like hunters with a trace 2 that made me want to die.
Yeah,
Um, but what happened was Corpse got rich. Corpse, when this card was released, had no economies. And then, somewhere in like the spin cycle or something, maybe shortly after that, Corpse got rich. They suddenly had money to spend. Like they were past their startup stage. They had some VC money, and suddenly they were buying yachts and creepy bioroids that stand over the shoulders of your employees.
that is true. Um, so yeah, for the most part, I agree with you, but I think that there's more context to be added. Other than you are correct that eventually Corpse did get like really rich. And I mean runners too. Like economy just as the game went on got like real wacky.
Yeah.
You were fucking seeing so many credit tokens on tables.
Yep.
On both sides. When the game was really rolling. But what I think kind of pushed it over the edge is I think once we got an APD contract, and then at that point we had already had Caprice Nisei. Eventually, somebody looked back and was like, "Okay, wait a minute," because with those kind of 3 cards together, like but by their powers combined, and not,
Mhm.
you don't even really need the Caprice Nisei. I mean, Caprice Nisei, I think if you're going to choose between the two, in most instances, is probably better. Um,
Yeah, it's
but
just better math mostly.
but between the 3 of them, somebody realized that you could just
Suddenly
make
your
it.
remote, yeah, your remote was safe.
Yeah,
They're not
like
getting in.
even with but like 2 ice, 2 3 ice, not even like a lot. Like they just couldn't deal. They just couldn't deal with it. Like they
Right.
just could not get in and steal the agenda.
And with Caprice, it was suddenly they couldn't just do the math and determine whether or not they could get in.
Yes, which is my I've been a staunch you know a staunchly anti Psy game uh for that very reason.
We'll have that discussion one
Yeah,
day.
well, one day. Um, but yeah, so the problem, right, is here was the interaction for people that didn't play, or maybe people that didn't play enough to ever run into this interaction, right? But the interaction, the meta context of Ash is that you would run on a server, you would get past the ice. The corp would res Caprice Nisei, and they would have a 2 in 3 chance of ending the run and telling you to fuck off.
Yep.
So that would happen, and 2 out of 3 times they would end the run and tell you to fuck off. You would
And
make you would make another run. You would get through the ice again. They would res Ash 2x3ZB9CY. They would pump the trace up to where it was just out of reach for you, which with a starting trace of 4, didn't tend to be too crazy. And like Isaac had said, corps were rich, so they can probably do that. And the only card that you can then access is Ash, and guess what? You gotta spend 3 to trash him if you don't want him to do it again. So you do that. You spend the 3 to trash Ash. If you have clicks left, and if you have money left, you can make a third run, and you can break the ice, and you can get into the server, and you can access the NAPD contract that you need to spend 4 credits to steal.
maybe they have a scored Project Nisei and they just kick you out anyway.
Yes. So the one of the big things, and this is where Jinteki kindly eventually was able to have their very own degenerate deck that nobody liked to play against. Is they would have Project Nisei, which if they had scored like Isaac said, they just got a free end the run and get out of my face token. And so all these factors eventually there was a straw that broke the camel's back, and I think it was NAPD contract that finally I think was kind of the light bulb card, because I think that's around when I started seeing people really use this.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But point is, it was just you had to do way too much, and it was way too expensive to try to get in and
Hmm.
steal an agenda with this guy and his cronies.
Totally. Just nutty. Which, on the one hand, for much of Netrunner's life, it felt like scoring remotes just were not a practical solution ever. And I liked them being a practical solution, but maybe the way that it happened wasn't always the best.
Yeah, it went from 0 to on that real fast.
Yeah.
Because it went from scoring remotes being a detriment, a liability, and something that just wasn't really viable, to just being like crazy.
Yeah.
So with that, what would you change about Ash 2x3ZB9CY?
Um, I don't know if the problem. It's hard to judge. Because Ash, the circumstances were never quite right for him to just be normal. Like he had an
Yeah,
abusive childhood where nobody could afford him, and so he was ignored. And then by the time daddy was rich, he had like a bunch of friends that were already out making mischief, and then they bought him a Lamborghini, and so he was making more mischief. You know what I mean?
yeah. I think uh, let me trump your analogy with what I think is a better analogy,
Okay.
because you're dumb and I hate you.
Whoa.
Um, is Here's the problem, right? Is Caprice Nisei is the big bully that is bigger and stronger and is going to beat you up.
Yep.
And while Ash 2x3ZB9CY is the scrawny little get him bully sidekick that were he not attached to the hip at Caprice Nisei, you would punch him in the face.
Right. So you're saying that Ash 2x3ZB9CY is that dude wearing the 3D glasses that hangs out with Biff in Back to the Future.
Yes. And so if
Just
you
just a nerd that hangs around someone bigger.
yes, if you removed Caprice and Nisei from the equation, Ash 2x3ZB9CY would not be scary.
Right.
And you would be able to deal with him easily. But once big doofus bully Caprice Nisei enrolled in Netrunner High, then it was all over.
What if, all right, assuming Caprice Nisei doesn't exist, do we think Ash still has a place and is reasonable, or is he just too much of a shrimp?
Uh, it's hard to say, right? Because I could argue that history tells us, right, that it didn't.
Sure, but
Um,
corps were also broke before Caprice,
Sure,
basically.
right. So it's kind of hard to say. And also, you can argue that, now with hindsight, which is an interesting thing, I think, about a lot of Netrunner and the cards and metas that kind of popped up, especially regarding, just older cards that ended up getting revisited. Um, is I think if you go back and play what now with a lot of context that you wouldn't have had when the cards first came out, you know, it's easier to make things viable and use things in an effective way. It's just
Yeah,
hard for me to say that Ash would still be good now that we have hindsight.
sure.
Because I don't know that I would try to run this outside of the context of a degenerate Caprice Nisei NAPD combo.
Hmm.
Um,
That might be fair. Yeah, I think I basically agree. It's a difficult card to judge in a vacuum.
yeah, and so I wouldn't. Here's what I'll say. I wouldn't nerf Ash. I would nerf the other bullies.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Ash was only part of the gang of bullies, but he was not the problem. He was not the problem child.
Right.
And given a healthy environment to grow up in, I think
Maybe he
he
could have made something of
yeah he,
himself.
he could have been an upstanding citizen. But anyway, yeah, it's hard to say what I'd change about Ash. I'd probably keep him the same, and then if other stuff was weaker, then I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, uh, what do we feel about the flavor? I do want to point out, just a little fun fact, and I don't want to forget to say it because I do that a lot, where I'll think of something in the middle of you saying something dumb and I'm not listening to,
Yeah.
and then I'll forget to say the cool and interesting thing that I thought about later on.
Well, open your dumb
Uh,
mouth and tell us.
is that fun fact? This was originally the art for Oversight AI.
Was it? Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why it got changed, but I don't know if it's still the case. But you at least could find this on the DeviantArt page for the artist, and it was titled Oversight AI,
Hmm. Interesting.
which of course would lead me to believe that that was originally what this the card that this art was for,
That
which
would make
which to
sense.
me makes a lot more sense than the weird cyber arrow like eye whatever thing that it
Yeah.
was.
Right.
Like this definitely makes more sense as the oversight AI, but I guess since it was a
Kind of, but this is,
bioroid,
yeah, it's a bioroid,
yeah,
so I guess I get why they do it that way.
yeah.
Eh,
What I would say is this was probably commissioned art from like really early in the game's development, maybe before they kind of had hashed out like the HB versus Wayland versus Jinteki, kind of motifs, and so kind of later on as they developed it more, they're probably like, oh, okay, well, the oversight bioroid doesn't really fit with Wayland anymore. We have to find a way to fit this into HB.
hmm.
That's going to be what I think, anyways. But anyway, well, read that flavor text for us.
Eyes forward, please.
What do you think
This
Ash 2x3ZB9CY does if they start looking away? Do you think he just crushes their head like a fucking pineapple?
I think he like makes fun of them in front of their friends and makes them stand at the front of the room and answer math problems that he knows they can't solve.
That sounds like something that our boy Ash 2x3ZB9CY would do. I do like the art though. I do think it's good art.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Um, flavor. have no idea why this dude standing behind some nerds would make it like so that a runner simply cannot afford to steal the story about corp like blowing people up. But
Yeah, the marriage of function to flavor doesn't maybe totally work.
these guys are working extra hard to make sure that you don't steal the juicy
Right.
corpo
They don't
stories.
want to be humiliated at the front of the class.
Yeah. Anyway, what do we rate Ash here?
Ash is gonna get a 3. I
Uh,
think I don't know what else to give him. A 2 feels wrong, a 4 feels wrong, so he's getting a 3.
yeah. I don't. I agree because I don't want to rate it high. I'm not really the biggest fan of this card. Like it only ever was just like annoying, you know.
Yep.
It never got used in a cool way, and it's
Yep.
hard to say that there is even a cool way to use it. I guess. Um, but it's obviously not bad. It obviously had a had some very significant time in the sun as far as the overall metagame goes.
Right.
So it's obviously eventually became an objectively good card. But I don't know, just a little boring, a little annoying, but it's not offensive, and it does try to do something cool.
Sure.
So I think 3 works.
Yep. Yep.
All right, well, let's talk about brain trust. I think this is you.
All right. Well, next up, as mentioned by Aaron, we have Brain Trust. It is a Jinteki. We're into the Jinteki cards. Agenda. It is 3 to score, worth 2 points. It has the subtype Research, which I don't think ever mattered. Its text reads: when you score Brain Trust, place 1 agenda counter on it for every 2 advancement tokens on it over 3. The rest cost of all ice is lowered by 1 for each agenda counter on Brain Trust. Okay, Aaron, what was up with Fantasy Flight just making blank 3/2s? Why would they keep trying in vain to convince you that you want to overscore these 3/2s?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. Prior to us reading this right now, had you asked me to tell you what the overscore ability on Brain Trust actually was, I would not have been able to remember. Um,
Yeah, it's like when did this ever happen?
like when you just read that, I actually in my head was like, "What the fuck? What does that?"
Yeah,
Um, yeah, this is a weird one. This is such a weird. This is one of the most like out of place like abilities. Like it's the res cost of ice. The Jintech. What? Why?
yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Sure, Jinteki is poor, but the solution to Jinteki being poor is not making them score a 5/2 to get a 1 credit discount on freaking ice that they
Yeah,
had
like
to res to protect this stupid brain trust in the first place. What a stupid ability. This is fucking stupid.
yeah, this card sucks. It's here. So
Okay, it
okay,
doesn't
here's the
suck.
problem. It doesn't suck because it's a 3/2, and 3/2s are just good because as mentioned in prior arguments about other cards, is that being able to score an agenda out pretty quickly is pretty good, kind of regardless of what they do or don't do.
Yeah, but this is stupid. It's dumb.
It's such a bad ability. Like even here's the problem, right? Is it's a bad ability that doesn't even fit in the faction that it's in.
It doesn't fit in the faction that it's in, and it doesn't even make sense in the context of itself. It's like, okay, but now you have to score a 5/2, so you had to res some ice to score a 5/2. I mean, I guess it's Jinteki, so ooh, we can play the
Uh,
shell game. I'm gonna
Mind
Mushin
games.
Notion it, and now I'm gonna ooh, is it Junebug?
Ooh,
Fuck off.
dare you enter my forest, my mythical piss forest?
No, avoid the piss forest. But what? Why? Why? You have Jinteki, which is such a fun, interactive faction, and this is what you printed? Come
It's
on,
like, yeah,
we're better than that.
it's like they just had to put something on it. And I think this was one where it was probably another overbalance situation where it was early in the game, and I think that they, were still kind of being cautious about what they were giving to Jinteki,
Probably.
which I think is kind of something that just happened up until Jinteki got their big box. It seems like, and they were finally just like, okay, we're all right. We're just gonna give Jinteki some good shit to do damage and like traps and like, okay, we'll do it fine.
I guess the Japanese can be good now. Whatever.
Yeah, like if they finally were, they just broke. They were like, okay, we'll give Jinteki good things. But this ain't it, Chief. This shit sucks. Well, the ability sucks. Like, it's so dumb. Like, it's not a bad card. You had to put this in every deck, every Jinteki deck, the moment it fucking came out.
Right, that's why we really resent it.
Yeah,
Probably is because we had to put this in Jinteki decks, and we wanted just House of Knives type stuff.
yeah, or Philotic Entanglement.
Right. I love the Philotics.
Yeah, like Philotic Entanglement should just be Brain Trust, and it shouldn't even be limited to one. I don't think. Like, I think that Philotic Entanglement is even in there because that was in the big box, right? Philotic.
It was in
Um,
the big box.
Yeah, even in that, like they still, and I get that Jinteki is a weird faction to balance, right? Because they're prickly and they can kill you at any time, but you don't want them to just be able to kill you at any time, right?
Right. You
And
want the runner to have to make a mistake to die.
yeah, but even Philotic Entanglement, they limited it to one per deck, which I don't think what needed to be done. Um, so I don't know. But the problem, right, is that Brain Trust got ran in every single Jinteki deck basically until the big box came out, and probably still after that even.
Yeah,
Um,
commonly afterwards. And yeah, I don't like running blank 3/2s.
yeah, and nobody ever used the overscore ability ever, and if you say that you did, you're a fucking liar. Like nobody used this. Like the ability is stupid. It's not good. Even if it was in another faction, it still wouldn't be good.
I overscored a brain trust once, like in my second game of Netrunner or
and,
something,
and you're
and I
like,
was like,
wow, this sucks.
"This sucks. Why would I do this in the future? This was AIDS."
Oh, why did I do this with a mistake?
Yeah, yeah, that.
This I have trust issues now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know that there's really much else to be said here. I
How
think all
much
we
can
can
you say
do,
about a blank 3/2?
yeah. So what we could talk about now, right, is so what ability should this have?
Um. Oh, I know. I know.
Yeah.
When you score brain trust, place 3 power counters on it. At the end of your turn, you may place, or at the start of the runner's turn, you may spend 1 power counter to place 1 advancement token on a card that is installed.
Isn't that just after script, but better?
No, because it's only occurring like it can't ever be used for fast advance.
Okay, maybe I didn't. Maybe I
So,
wasn't
so,
listening
so, like
close enough.
at the end of your turn, you can remove 1 power counter from it to place an
Oh,
advancement token
okay. It's at
on
the
a
okay.
card.
It's at the end of okay. I was like in my head. I was like, that's just better Astro script.
No,
But
no,
okay,
no, no, no. So it can't be used for fast advance in any way.
okay. So it's like if you built Tenon Institute into like some charges when you score this, basically.
Kind of, yeah, something like that.
Okay, I can see it. Um, I was thinking something like this might be too strong. I might be a little too crazy on this one. But I was thinking um, like whenever the runner encounters a piece of ice, like it gains do one net damage as a subroutine.
That'd be pretty beefy. Maybe power counters for that or something. So there's
Yeah,
a limited number of occurrences.
yeah, yeah. It just gets 3 power counters, and you can spend one to do one net damage sub. Kind of
Yeah,
nice.
I don't hate that.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
So, yeah, it shouldn't do what it does.
Yeah, it can do literally anything other than what it does right now. Almost anything would be better.
Yes.
Um, Flavor. What is the flavor? Brain jars. What is
It's
this?
it's got no flavor text. It's just brains in jars, which don't get me wrong, I love me a brain in a jar, but like
Yeah.
we spent a lot of time and money putting these brains in jars and they figured out how to make our ice cheaper.
Ooh. I like to think that it actually has a really relevant function to flavor, in that Jinteki spent all these money on brains in jars, and now they just sit around and don't do anything.
It was such a bloody waste of time and
somebody,
money.
somebody walks into the brain jar room, and they're like, "So what do these do?"
But
And the other guy's just like, I don't know.
you know what? That's way better. That's the official canon now, and this is flawless flavor text.
Yeah, the
A
brain jar room
flawless
just
card flavor.
they just do nothing. All right, what do we rate Brain Trust here?
Brain Trust gets a 1. 3 twos were by and large a mistake, in my opinion, and this is a stupid one.
Yeah, I agree.
It is both strong for the wrong reasons
Hmm.
and boring.
It's an auto include that like doesn't fucking do anything. It's like such a
Yeah,
frustrating type of card.
yeah.
Like so crazy.
Like it may I have to put it in my deck, and I'm mad that I do.
Yeah. So, just kind of again, it goes back to the discussion that we had earlier. Like really, an agenda is just as good as little of a hassle that it is to exist in your deck.
Yeah,
Um, and this pet passes that by just enough
yeah,
to be a mainstay in every fucking Jinteki deck for who even knows how long.
yep.
Anyway, final card time. Oh, well, to cap us off, we have Snowflake. It is a still a Jinteki ice. It has the subtypes Barrier and Psi. It is 1 Durez and 3 Strength, 2 Influence, and it has a single subroutine that reads: You and the runner secretly spend 0, 1, or 2 credits. Reveal spent credits. End the run if you and the runner spent a different number of credits. Isaac,
Mm-hmm.
um, how weird is it that one of my least favorite mechanics and kind of, to me at least, most controversial mechanics that ended up being so common in the game
I'd agree.
started out on such a piece of shit ice.
It's kind of funny. Um, on its base level, it's like, ooh, it's a cost 3 strength barrier. That's not bad. But here's the thing: cards like Caprice Nisei, you had to get past all the ice to play her little game. And so there are consequences if you fail. You've not only wasted a click, but whatever resources you had to spend getting past ice. Snowflake doesn't have that problem. You see, you run Snowflake and then you spend 0, and the corp spends 1 or 2 or 0. This is ice that's taxing the corporation. This is reverse taxing ice.
Yeah, if you just run into this 4 times in a row and spend 0 every time, either the corp loses 4 credits or they just let you in.
Yep. Yep. This is big stinky dog poo.
Yeah,
This is yellow snow.
this is a big old yellow snowflake right here. Um, and I'm gonna be, and so here's the thing: is we're talking about it sooner than I expected. It was funny that you said we'd be talking about it like it was going to be far off, but I literally did not know that the Psy game was introduced in the first data pack ever. I actually didn't know that. I thought for some reason I thought that it came around later.
I
Um,
forgot that it was the first pack, but I remember it being the first cycle.
anyway, so allow me to make a stance here.
Uh-huh.
The Psy game sucks, and it was a complete design misstep in introducing it, and then also like trying to use it in so many things.
I get what they were doing, kind of. Like what the side game is kind of a pure Yomi thing. You're just trying to guess off of limited data what your opponent is doing. The problem is like good pure Yomi like you'd get in martial arts or in a fighting game, something like that, doesn't translate as well into spend 0, 1, or 2 credits.
Yes. So here's the thing. I think what they meant for this to be, right, was that there were going to be, there's economic implications, right?
Mhm.
You need to guess, like, does the corp, do they really want to spend the money to keep you out, or do they not? Or, oh, like, the idea was that there was going to be economic impact that was going to influence the side game, right?
Right.
However, the problem became that everybody got so fucking rich that it didn't matter what you spent, so it literally was just
Right.
completely
Yep.
random.
Yep. And that's really the problem, is it's a design flaw with their idea of what a credit meant. Because it did mean what I think Snowflake intends at the time Snowflake was released.
Sure.
If you had to spend 2 credits to just bounce someone off, you're like, ugh, I can't do that again.
Right. Um, but the problem became, once we got around to cards like the Future Perfect and Caprice Nice, like, it didn't matter if the corp has 20 fucking credits. Like, it doesn't matter whether they spend 0, 1, or 2. Like, it
Right.
is, for all intents and purposes, meaningless. And once you don't have that meaning and you don't have that context surrounding the side game, it just becomes a random dice roll.
Yeah, which it literally became the meme of it in like competitive play, is
Yeah,
people
you would
would
just
bring
shake
a
the
die
credits.
with them and they just roll the die secretly and then use that to determine what they were doing because they didn't trust their own brain to be sufficiently random.
Yeah, and because I used to see it all the time that people would just grab 2 credits and shake them in their hand and throw them, and they would say, credits on this side are spent, credits on this side are not spent. And that's literally how corps would resolve the side game, is they would just shake and toss
Right,
credits.
because the most effective way to resolve it as the corp was just as a random number game.
Yes. And that was the big problem, right? Is that it was a random number game that, in most circumstances, favored the corp because they
Yeah.
got the 2 out of 3 chance, while the runner got the 1 in 3 chance,
Yep. Yep.
which was very annoying and was applied to very annoying cards. That made it so that once you completed the point of Netrunner, once you did the net running, then you had to play this shitty chance game to see if you got to actually do the thing that you spent all the effort doing.
Yeah.
And it was annoying, and I hate it. And whoever thought of this idea and decided to start applying it to all these other fucking cards is a dingly dingus.
It was Damon Stone.
Damon Stone, you devil!
I don't know if that's true, but yeah, I want to blame him.
I'm gonna start screaming like Alex Jones. Ah, Damon Stone, you devil! Um, but yeah, I hate the side game. And while its first iteration in Snowflake was humorously bad, it was a catalyst for things to come. And the things to come, like I said, were very annoying.
Yep.
And this side game bullshit, if we're just gonna call a spade, got applied to cards that it had no business being applied to.
Yep. So,
Snowflake though sucks. So if we just want to bring it back around, yeah, Snowflake sucks. It's just a bad
yeah,
wall of static.
it stinks. Nobody used it. Next.
Yeah. Flavor, like what? What even is the flavor? What's the I'll read the flavor text here. Sometimes uniqueness is overrated.
This is the most bland flavor.
Yeah, like what?
Much like if I stood outside and snowflakes fell on my tongue, this is what it
Hmm.
tastes like.
Yeah, and the art is really bad too.
Right, it's just like different wall of static, except wall of static is kind of pretty.
I don't know if I got a weird scan, but I mean, it looks like there's like poop on it. It looks like somebody wiped their butt with the card.
It's more gonna get more use that way.
Like, for real. Like it's got like brown on there, so it looks like this was like on their like third wipe. Somebody grabbed the snowflake to finish the job. Like it's
Yeah.
it's just bad. It does not look good. It just looks like a blob of just garbage.
Yep. So it's a 0, right?
Yeah, it gets a 0 for a myriad of reasons. It gets a 0 because it sucks. It gets a 0 because its flavor sucks. It gets a 0 because its art sucks. It gets a 0 because somebody wiped their butt with it and then printed it. It gets a 0 as, and most importantly of all, because it introduced one of, if not, just the, in my opinion, just worst and most unfun, annoying mechanics that was ever in the game.
You know what? It turns out uniqueness is overrated.
Yeah. And this card is uniquely terrible. So, with that, that is our mandated 5 cards to talk about.
Can I be unchained now? Can I go?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna make you play Stratego again, but I guess I'll let you go this time.
Please, no more kernels.
All right, well, everybody, thanks for listening, and goodbye. No funky or weird outro this time. Just goodbye.